Well, I don't know what's on the camera. I'll know when I get back. It's definitely too noisy by the river, unfortunately, because that creek is such a cool thing to look at. Did he drop his glasses? Of course he did. Also blew a moccasin. My wader boot, my right wader boot, I put on my old pair and the felt bottom blew off first. I'm like, oh well, no big deal. And then no readers. Shit. Let's see what I can do this. I might be able to do this. Anyway, then the bottom of my sole split wide open with my $400 waders on. So I'm walking on my heel, trying to make sure I don't puncture a hole in my waders for the hike back. But anyway, it's kind of funny. I was casting the camera down some runs. And this creek it's pretty cool. It's not that wide. It's around 20 meters wide, all the way down to 6 meters wide to maybe 40 meters wide. And lots of mature timber around it. And I had his two floats, floating the cameras, floating way down the run. All of a sudden I saw 3 young people, I don't know, in their 20s, hiking along the river. All of a sudden they see them, they stop and they're looking at it, like, what is that? And then I'm like, and I'm in the middle of the river, upriver above them. They can't see me yet. I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be funny. So the guy grabs a snowball and throws a snowball at it. Pretty good shot, actually hit the floats. So I couldn't help myself. As soon as he hit the floats, I went, wham! All 3 of them jumped about 6 feet in the air. That was pretty funny. He's all apologetic, thinking he's ruining my fishing day, but meanwhile, you can't do that. You can't ruin this fishing day, ever. Now let's see if I can read this. I don't know if I can do this, but I will try. I want to get a handful of these out, so I can get up early tomorrow morning, get out the door and go fish on another river. So, what do we got? This is titled Michigan Dogman. And just so you guys know, I've never seen one. I don't know anyone that's seen one personally. First up, Scott Carpenter's seen them, but I haven't seen it. I haven't spoken to any Canadians who have spoken of a dogman ever before. I'll see if I can read this. Hello, Steve. Start by saying I live in northern Lower Michigan. I was driving to work early one cold November morning. I started up a hill on Supply Road when a tall, dark, bipedal figure ran across the road. It was so fast. It was a blur until it hit the wood line. Then I could make it out in the headlights. Biggest wolf-like head with a long, shaggy mane, eyes glowing, tongue waving side to side. The creature was very muscular, weighing at least 500 pounds. I was driving a Chevy Corsica and it was way above the top of the car, over 7 feet tall. Later I realized it was on a game trail, as there had been a road arrow sign next to where I had seen it come out. If anyone listening knows this area, there is a pull-off on top of that hill, Williamsburg Road being right after that, then a huge trailhead. I've walked all around this area before the sighting. I will not go back there to this day. There's a small lake at the end of the 2-track connected to the pull-off. It had a nice woman that I took there for privacy. Sitting in the woods off the 2-track I was seldomly used, I had a feeling the whole time we were being watched. I looked behind us and saw nothing. I did notice a nice looking meadow. It looked very inviting. I listened to my gut and said to myself, don't go there. We had our fun and got out of there. This was all before that sighting. Like I said, I won't go near there now, going back further with this place. My brother and I wanted to fish the small lake, so we went there. We both had the feeling of something watching us. Felt like being stalked. Needless to say, we didn't do any fishing. On the way out, we noticed fish near the shore. On the way out, we noticed fish near the shore. They had red eyes. I've never seen a fish with red eyes. I've done a lot of fishing in my life. Cleaned them as a child, getting poked by the fins when disposing of the guts. Never seen a fish with red eyes. This is a smallmouth bass. We got out of there. I hope this story helps others get the knowledge of this creature out there. Sincerely, Sage. That's pretty crazy. red-eyed fish. Never heard of that before either, unless I made the eyes red by bonking it in the head, right? And the big timber here. A dogman. I don't want to see one. There's far, far too many reports of them. You have to take. I'm taking all the reports seriously myself because there's just far, far too many. What an alarming figure. All right, here's another one. Same person. 2 emails attached. Hello, Steve. Love what you're doing. I live in a remote area. Been here all my life, 30 years. 7 acres stretching from field to field. In the back of the property, which is long and skinny, with a trail heading out back, is where I hunt. I was sitting in my shadow den with my crossbow when I noticed a baby Sasquatch 125 yards across the field. In the mature timber. He or she was running happily toward the field, as if it was a sunny day, mid-October. Then I see an 8-foot-tall father Sasquatch reach his hand out to the baby Sasquatch's shoulder. The baby looks up as to why to stop me, Dad, and then he gestures with his hand towards me. The baby turns his head. We all lock eyes. Then I see a female Sasquatch further back in the woods. She squats down so I can only see her from the shoulders up through the brush. My hands shake as I write this. I watched for a slight time, then slowly went back to my house, only scared because of the size of these beings. 8 feet tall, 4 foot wide shoulders, hair all over, 6 inches long, but the face, flat and human-like. I didn't go back and hunted elsewhere the rest of that season. I wasn't likely to see any deer with a family of them using the timber stand across the field from my property as their home. We have whitetail here in Michigan, not as plentiful as they used to be. I've had several other sound encounters, howls and knocks. This was 2011, the one and only time that I've seen Sasquatch. I tell others and they just laugh like I'm bullshitting them. I know what I've seen. I have perfect vision. I went back and I've been hunting that there a few years now. I see branches I have cut for shooting lanes across my path to my natural... I see branches I have cut for shooting lanes across my path to my natural blind I hunt from now. I just acknowledge that they are there, clear the path, and move on. Just yesterday, I let my dog in at midnight. She looked froze still. I really had to call her to get inside. Not like her at all. I closed the door and looked at the tree line. You can't see the back field, but you can see the tree line where the sighting was. A slow-moving craft. Oval, shaped with bright lights blinking red and white, hovering over the tree line, moving from right to left very slowly until it disappeared out of my sight. Linked? From listening to your show, seems possible. My name's Sage and I live in South Boardman, Michigan. Feel free to use my name. I freely tell people of my experience. I feel it isn't something that should be kept inside and ignored. Well, I stand by your side and fight for what's right until the end or ours. Until their end or ours. You're a great man, take care. You know what? Sage, you're a great man for writing that in, alright? And it's people like you that make the channel what it is. A safe place to share this alarming shit that's really going on this planet that we're apparently not allowed to know about. Oh, that kind of makes my eyes blurry reading that without my reader, especially with this fading light. Heard a couple weird noises in the timber back there, but whatever. See if I can do this one more time, although this is a little agonizing. My experience. Hi, Steve. I debated to send this to you as it... Hi, Steve. I debated as to send this to you as it is an experience, not an encounter. You and Dave Pilatus always stress trusting your gut and a good dog if you have one with you. This experience is about that. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was hiking in the mountains outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. Locals will know the area as Lee Canyon. I was on the furthest trail with my German Shepherd dog, Polo. She was my soul dog. She was very protective, and she was always with me and was always in front of me on the trails, always. This area we were in was very missing 411 boulder field. In this area we were in was very missing 411 boulder field going up one side of the trail, steep with big boulders on the other side. We passed some people coming down, so probably a few people. We passed a few people coming down, but as far as I could tell, no one was up ahead of us. It started out with me just checking over my shoulder up the hill towards the boulder field, expecting to see something looking at me. There's wild horse and donkey sign all over, and I kind of figured it would be them. They're all over the place up there in the summer. No feeling of dread ever came over me. As we hiked a little further, still looking over my shoulder, I started to feel a bit like maybe we should turn around and head back to the car. At this point, we were probably a mile and a half or so out, continuing forward, and Halo start closing the gap. Okay, I'm gonna finish this in the truck. It's too much. Losing light. It's making my eyes blurry as shit, and I will stop it there. I'll finish in the truck because that's just too much. Can't believe I dropped those damn glasses. Of course I didn't drop my frickin' glasses. They're right here. I'll tell you what. Sometimes, right? Game on. Alright, enough of lapping. Listen up. No feeling of dread came over me. As I hiked a little further, still looking over my shoulder, I started to feel a bit like maybe we should turn around or head back to the car. At this point, we're probably a mile and a half or so out, still continuing toward, and Halo starts closing the gap between her and I. She's usually 10 feet or so in front of me. Then she fell behind me, not normal at all, and I took notice. We came to a sharp turn in the trail with a huge boulder you can't really see around to see the trailhead. I stopped and turned to look at her as she got to me and was thinking we should turn back when she passed me to almost the edge of the boulder and started shuddering. In her step, stretched out as far as she could, trying hard to sniff around the edge without actually going around it or even looking around it. By this point, I was a little anxious, but nothing terrible, and had been thinking about turning around for a little while. So after watching her for a minute, I realized it was oddly quiet and asked her, should we go back? She didn't hesitate for a second and turned and started trotting back down the trail. I was almost jogging to keep up with her. By the time we got about halfway back to the car, to where we could hear people again at the popular place right below the trailhead, I felt fine again, and Halo was back to her normal behaviors. We went on with our day, stopped at a couple other places without any issues. I thought it was weird. I saw a fresh deer leg bone just off the trail where the aspen trees start, and she didn't even stop to sniff it. She loved deer in their bones. The only predators they have out there are cougars, bobcats, and coyotes. Only she's never encountered or taken deer from is cougars. I don't know what that was around that boulder, but I do believe trusting my gut and my dog kept me from experiencing something I didn't need to. Thank you for taking the time to read this, and you can share my name. I don't give a shit. Christine Slagle. Christine, thanks for the share. And it's good to hear people are listening to their canines, because that's what we're supposed to do. For certain. I still got enough light to hike out of here. So I'm going to keep going. As you guys are hearing this, I'm going to be standing probably up to my waist in a different river tomorrow morning, which will be this morning as you're hearing this. This is a lengthy one. Let's see if we can get it done. Please feel free to share our story, our names, and locations. May I start this incident report by thanking you for the precious work you do in allowing all of us experiencers to have a voice that is not suppressed or discarded by those that pretend to be authorities on the Sabbath. I will combine the two incidents my husband and I experienced in this accounting as they are directly related. My husband and I are ocean sport fishermen, and we fish out of Crescent City, California. Back in the early 90s, we were focused on the salmon runs early in the spring when the salmon were plentiful. We had a 23-foot boat and often had friends come and meet us to camp at Mill Creek Campground that is just south of the city. The campground is located in a second-growth redwood area that was logged at the turn of the 20th century. Each campsite is cut into the undergrowth and is deeply surrounded by dense growth between the giant trees. The only way to enter or leave the campsite is through the small car parking spot. In the camp spot is a central brick fireplace that extends about 10 feet high to allow smoke to go above the surrounding dense brush. Due to the cold spring temperatures, the campground was mostly empty, and we would always camp on the far side to avoid other campers. The beautiful Mill Creek wound through the campground with a couple of small bridges for cars. My husband and I loved camping in our tent, and we arrived the day before our friends had set up camp. Our tent opening was towards the brick chimney. We often just closed the screen at night because we had good bags to sleep in on cots. That first night I woke up to a very strong musk smell. I was sleeping on my back on my cot next to my husband. It was very dark and there was a very low ambient light coming from a distant bathroom. And I looked over my head to see a very large silhouette of a no-neck person standing next to the chimney and facing me. My husband is 6'4", and I slowly reached to him to see if it was him. He was right next to me. I then yelled at my husband that someone was in our camp. Remember the strong smell. It was strange, not human-like. I'm a retired ERRN and know human smells well. As I yelled, the person then stepped, not towards the car opening, but towards the brush behind our tent. There was no thrashing or other crashing noises like a bear makes in the woods. I wondered how long he had been standing there watching me. My husband said maybe just a very large man peeper. The next morning, making our breakfast, I really tried to analyze how that person could make it through that brush. We then went fishing and didn't focus much on the event. Did you hear that? Whatever. Shit's gonna happen, shit's gonna happen. Our friends arrived that day and set up the tent across from us on the other side of the chimney. I'd forgotten about the night before incident, as we fished all day and we all went to sleep. Our tent screen was only zipper closed. I woke again in the middle of the night to that strong smell. I pretended to roll over in my sleep because now is going to get to a point of reference to my height, etc. My hairs are standing on frickin' end. I'm gonna get through this. Whatever, man. Whatever. I'd forgotten about the night before the incident as we fished all day and we all went to sleep. Our tent screen only was zipper closed. I woke again in the middle of the night to that strong smell. I pretended to roll over in my sleep because now is going to get a point of reference to the height, etc. of this intruder. I looked up and saw the silhouette of a large, no-neck giant person and just short of the top of the chimney. Just then her friend yelled out from their tent saying, "Hey, who is that?" And I yelled, "Intruder." We both watched the giant go right into the brush without so much as a small sound and into the pitch black without any light or anything. We all jumped up and I told them the intruder was there the night before. We tried to use flashlights to see where we went, and to no avail. In the morning, we then tried to retrace the steps he took. It could not get through the brush without a machete or some other tools. I then had my husband stand where Mr. Big was, and we estimated he was over 8 feet tall. All 4 of us agreed on the size of this intruder. Both of us who saw him then wrote to the Bigfoot report for the Northwest, but nothing was followed up. We left that day to go home and reported to the park ranger what had happened, and he nonchalantly said that was Bigfoot. We always get reports here in the early spring. Part 2. 2 years later, we went back to the camp in early spring. We camped on the near side of the creek this time, as the area we had the encounter was blocked off. That evening, my husband and I walked over the bridge to the other side and walked out a little past the place we stayed before. I really wanted to see if the terrain was what I remembered. As we were walking back, to our left was a wall of brush and a high slope. On the right was the creek through the thick brush. We had a flashlight, so my husband was carrying just in case. Suddenly, a loud screech came from the hillside of our left. To our left, the screech was breathtaking. It was described by my husband and I as a combination of a loud parrot, gorilla, and a screeching seagull. The sound was physically felt and so loud that it accomplished terrifying us, and I'm sure was the intent. We estimated the caw came from this creature. That came from this creature was close, like 10 yards or less, but in the dark brush above us to the left. My husband and I turned and began to walk very fast to the open area of the campground and across the creek bridge. As we turned to go, after a few loud caws, then more caws came from the brush on the other side of the camp road in the dark brush along the creek side. We quickly realized there were a few of them around us. They followed us loudly, cawing at us until we crossed the bridge back into the open park of the campground. We quickly headed back to our tent camp, and it was quiet for a while. About an hour or so later, pebbles were being thrown at our tent over and over again, most of the night, but no further sound. My husband and I spent a scared night trying to discuss and find any possible animal that could have been the voices of what we experienced, but we have no solution other than we had a direct interaction with Seb. And yes, you probably did. Thanks for that email. I guarantee you that with your description of where you were, somebody else is listening that has had an experience there, and they're gonna either comment about it in the comment section below, or they're going to email me about it. Now, I'm gonna start walking out of here. I'm gonna pan that camera against that timber, and then I'm gonna hold that camera facing behind me as I hike out of here. For the hell of it. That was a crazy sound, man. I hope that camera picked it up. That was a screech yell, something. And the nearest road is that way, another half a mile. There's no road that way. Just the creek, the timber, big and deep snow. No other prints except these young people hiked out this way, but whatever. I gotta get going. It's getting dark. I'm not even gonna turn this off. Okay, here we go.
enough of that.